Hi, Randy here. Want to talk to you a little bit about a question that somebody just shared with me. They asked me about should they get a mentor or should they just plow forward and learn from their own experience? And it's a great question. It's very valid. I know everybody is different on that, but I will say this, that yes, you can learn through experience, but it doesn't have to be your own experience. You can learn through the experience of others. I mean, you don't have to make all the hard, difficult decisions. You can learn from how they made decisions in the past. I mean, so often we talk about learning the hard way. Well, why don't we learn from other people who learned from the hard way? And that helps us move forward a lot quicker. We do learn from experience. Now, I know some people are concerned saying, well, I don't want to be like a cookie cutter clown. I don't want to just be an imitation of Leanne McBride or a Arthur Pedler or a Janet Tucker or a Mark Anthony. And I understand that we want to be individualistic in our clowning, but there are techniques. It's like this. If you want to learn how to play violin, you can just pick it up and teach yourself. You can do that. Or you can go take lessons from a concert symphony violinist, and they can, or a fiddler, or depending on what style you want to learn. But you can learn from others to get the technique down, and then you use it to express yourself. That's what happens in basically every form of art. There are techniques that work for each form, and then you learn those, you master those, and then you can use those to express yourself. When I wanted to start learning mime, I remember that I was at Advanced Studies in the Performance Art of Clown with Frosty and Leon. And one year the instructor was Karen Hoyer, and I went to her class. The next year I found out that Jose Rivera was teaching. He taught a class 3 times a day. And it ended up that I actually had some of those time frames open because I wasn't teaching then. And I would go to every one of his classes back to back to back. And by the 3rd time I went through everything he was teaching that day, I felt like I was starting to get the hang of it a little bit. And I asked him, I said, Jose, what do I need to do in order to really learn how to do mime? And he said this, he says, well, find a mime class. Well, I lived in Bismarck, North Dakota. So I said, I am the North Dakota mime. Okay. And he said, well, then next best thing, take jazz dance or Tai Chi, maybe Taekwondo. And that way, you learn to move and stop and move and stop and move and stop. You learn to have balance and all that kind of stuff. So I started taking classes. Yes, I went and took a jazz dance class. It was a little awkward as I step into the room wearing my t-shirt and my sweatpants, and I'm in there with 15 other 14-year-old girls, right? And I just stepped in. They kind of looked at me and said, I'm just here to learn jazz dance. I'm just here for that. And so learning from a mentor, I think, is very helpful. Very helpful. They can answer questions and give perspectives. You don't have to become exactly like them, but at least you're in the know, so you have a foundation to make your decision on. When I first started off, I started in college, and I became part of a clown team at North Central University. The person in charge of it was Dave Boyd. Now, I'll tell you what, Dave was one of the most spontaneously creative people I've ever met in my life. He's just amazing. And he used that in his clowning. So that's how I learned how to do it. Clowning was a lot of improv. And but basically, he was basically self-taught. And so I was being self-taught by a self-taught guy. And so I learned the style, that he did. But then after a few years, I was at the Fellowship of Christian Magicians convention, and a guy came through. His name was Michael O'Shaughnessy. He ran a shop called the Circus Clowns. He's a former Ringling Circus clown, and he would create stuff that actually Ringling would buy from him to use with all of their clowns. And I would go sit in his shop. And as I would sit in his shop, I would just, listen to him talk on the phone as he was giving advice. I would ask questions as he was working on stuff, even though I wasn't really trying to, mess with him or interrupt him, but I'd ask questions. I would go through his racks of costuming and figure out, how is he designing these things? How is he doing the color combinations? How does he make things work? I remember one time I was in there and he just came through and I was looking through bins of clown makeup and he just said, "Buying anything today?" And I said, "I'm a college student. I don't have any money." And he just went, "Okay." And one time I'm sitting there and I'm flipping through a book of photographs, pictures of places he's performed and the characters that he would perform. And I'm looking through this and studying this stuff. And a guy came in and started talking with Michael. And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to be a great clown. That's why I'm here, because I'm going to get the best costume and because all the best makeup, because I'm going to be the best clown." And Michael O'Shaughnessy just turned to him and said, "No, you're not." And it kind of shocked the guy. And I kind of looked out of the corner of my eye. And Michael says, "You're not going to be any good. You're not going to be any good. You just think you're going to buy stuff and slap it on. That's going to make you a great clown? That doesn't make you a great clown." He said, "I'll tell you what makes you a great clown. You do hear what Randy's doing right here, see? You do what he's doing." And I was kind of like, "Oh." And he says, "You how to become great?" He says, "You rub up against it. It's like osmosis, you rub up against it. You gotta sit, you gotta listen, you gotta pay attention, and you rub up against people that know what they're doing. And through that, it will soak in and you can become a good clown then. But you're not willing to do that, are you? You're not willing to pay the price or take the time." I don't remember the end of that conversation, but I sat there and I thought, oh man, I guess I'm not just here, irritating him. He actually sees the desire that I have in order to become good. And so he would speak to me and he would teach me and he would invest in me. And it was awesome. I was able to learn a number of his techniques. And through the years, I just keep looking for people I can learn from. I found this. There's this saying, you gain those you serve. Okay? And so like I meet Leon McBride and it's like, okay, how can I help you? Can I help carry your bags? Can I help move the tables? Do you need me to help move chairs? What can I do to help? And you become friends and they appreciate you and then they start investing in you. And I met Arthur Pedler in England in 1993 at the World Clown Association convention. We talked for less than a minute. But I knew he told me he was coming to the United States to be at Clown Camp with Richard Snowberg and the whole group there. And he was flying into Chicago. At that point in time, I lived a little over an hour away from Chicago. And I just said, "Hey, if you need me to pick you up at the airport, I'll come and pick you up." And we arranged that actually he rode with me to Clown Camp. I was his transportation and drove him back. And we developed this friendship. And through that also I could listen to him and glean from him and learn from him his approach to clowning. And so I looked for ways. Fact is, I started doing this. I decided I'm going to start running workshops. Here's the secret. I started running workshops because I wanted to learn from the people that I brought in to teach alongside of me. I wanted to learn from them. So I would teach part of the day, but then I'd have these other people teaching their stuff so I could learn it. And all these people are paying money to have them come so I can learn. Learn the techniques of others. Then you can choose to use them or choose not to use them. But until you learn them, you only have one choice, and that's not to use them. So learn, glean from everybody. And I still do this. I'm always looking for things. How do other people do it? I know how I do it. But like just this last weekend, I was sitting in a class and I asked like one question and then I just sat and listened. It's something I already do, but I wanted to hear how other people do it. I need to expand my options because I'll never know when I might be in a situation when I want to use that idea that somebody else shared with me. So I encourage you, immerse yourself into the world of others. And so you can learn from their techniques. When I lived in North Dakota, I started buying every VHS tape I could find of the circus and different performers because they didn't come through the middle of North Dakota. But I could watch them. And now, of course, you can just YouTube stuff and you can watch Buster Keaton and you can watch Charlie Chaplin and you can watch various circus greats. And so immerse yourself in that stuff. Maybe it's not a personal relationship with a mentor, but boy, study those people that are doing it well and you can learn and glean from their techniques. That's a few of my thoughts from the inside.